Greetings, and welcome to the DC Bar Pro Bono Center's Nonprofit and Small Business Programs podcast series. On a monthly basis, we talk to experts on legal topics of note to nonprofits and small businesses. I'm Darryl Maxwell, Assistant Director for the DC Bar Pro Bono Center's Nonprofit and Small Business Legal Assistance Programs. We've been lucky to have a co-sponsorship with our friends from the Center for Nonprofit Advancement, an organization that expands professional development opportunities, access, and capacity for nonprofit organizations throughout the Washington, D.C. region. Today, we're going to focus our attention on for-profit businesses. We'll be discussing benefit corporations, positives, and misconceptions. I am pleased to welcome my friend and colleague, Alicia Plerhoples, to help us with this. Alicia began in private practice in New York City and Silicon Valley, where she advised asset-based lenders and emerging biomedical and technology companies on finance arrangements. Currently, Alicia teaches at Georgetown Law School and is the director of the Social Enterprise and Nonprofit Law Clinic, through which law students provide pro bono, corporate and transactional legal services to social enterprises, nonprofit organizations, and small businesses. Alicia is a graduate of Yale Law School, Princeton's Woodrow Wilson School of Public and International Affairs, and Harvard College. Alicia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Darryl, for having me speak with you today.
Great. And I will also say parenthetically that you don't have far to go to have gone to literally every Ivy League school that there is.
Yeah, well, I am still paying off some of those student loans.
We want to talk today about benefit corporations. And for those who sort of heard different things, I just wanted to give a quick introduction. Benefit corporations are for-profit companies that meet certain standards of social and environmental performance, accountability, and transparency. In essence, benefit corporations aspire to move beyond wealth creation for owners and shareholders, possibly to combat a social issue or to address a disadvantage, a community disadvantage. So, Alicia, generally, why would someone choose to register their business as a benefit corporation? And also, is there possibly a famous benefit corporation that folks might know about?
Yes. Well, I think an owner of a corporation or a small business would choose to register as a benefit corporation in order to show that they are trying to achieve some additional purpose, whether it's a social or environmental mission. And there is a wide range of what a benefit corporation is, and I think that there's often a misconception around what benefit corporations are. And there's a very wide range, and we can go into some of those examples. But I would say that people think prominently about Patagonia as a benefit corporation. So Patagonia is, as you know, a large clothing company, but they also have an environmental mission and attempt to reduce the use of water and environmental damage in their sourcing of their clothing.
I do own some Patagonia. It's great to know that the business has sort of a socially focused mission as well as making outstanding products.
So that's one, and that's just one. When I said that there is a range, and I would say Patagonia is interesting because it is what everybody would think of as a traditional corporation, but just has maybe this environmental. Wants to reduce its environmental impact versus there are smaller businesses like Greystone Bakery in Yonkers, New York, which actually it bakes cookies, but their motto essentially is we don't employ people to bake cookies. We bake cookies to employ people. And so that's much more, I think, on the spectrum of a benefit corporation that is that's really built around doing a social good versus just trying to reduce its social negative or social environmental impact.
Okay, and so let me, I know, and typically when we work with folks who want to start businesses, they ask questions about sort of the differences between maybe what a C Corp might be, what an LLC is, and then, I think recently, since the District of Columbia added the benefit corporation in the last couple of years as an option for folks to register their business, how would or how exactly is the benefit corporation different than those forms?
Yeah. So there are additional obligations that are put on a benefit corporation. Really, the benefit corporation, by incorporating as one, you're committing to higher standards of purpose, accountability, and transparency. And in terms of purpose, you're committing to create what's called a general public benefit, and that's in addition to generating profitability. In terms of accountability, you are committing that to consider the company's impact on society and the environment in order to create long-term sustainable value for all stakeholders, not just your shareholders. And then in terms of transparency, the benefit corporation is committing to report annually and using a third-party standard to show their progress towards achieving that social or environmental impact.
That's, I think that's a really good sort of explanation of the difference. Now, if I could, let's put sort of nonprofit corporations sort of in the mix of sort of what's different. So a lot of folks, when they're sort of looking to get guidance on this, they will say, well, I think I want to be a nonprofit, or I think maybe I want to be a for-profit. Sort of how much do benefit corporations act like nonprofits, or at least could you give me what the differences are?
Yeah, sure. So benefit corporations are very different than nonprofit corporations. With a benefit corporation, you actually do have shareholders or investors who are contributing money or property or services and receiving shares in the benefit corporation in return. And the shareholders, even though you're a benefit corporation, they're still expecting to profit from their investment in the corporation. Whereas a nonprofit corporation is formed for a charitable purpose, and it does not have owners, it does not have investors, and anyone who's contributing to the nonprofit corporation is making a donation. They don't expect a profit from their contribution. And I would say that, the nonprofit corporation also has additional obligations in terms of accountability and transparency.
Well, that's. I mean, I think that's a really that's also a really helpful sort of explanation and distinction. And part of the reason why I think benefit corporations became such an in vogue sort of question, particularly to the clients that we work with at the Pro Bono Center, is typically clients are looking to figure out ways to raise money, and I think social enterprise being a buzzword that is, I would say, let me say it's your life's work, so I don't want to call it a buzzword or in vogue.
It's a buzzword, I would agree.
But as it's become more popular, I think a lot of for-profit businesses have been trying to seek out a synergy between doing good and making money. But I just wanted to make sure that the distinction was clear. Social enterprises or benefit corporations, they can't raise funds for which somebody can get a tax benefit.
Right, exactly. So I was describing the ownership differences between a nonprofit and a benefit corporation, but there are other key differences we should be thinking about too. So as you said, that taxation is a difference as well. So as a for-profit corporation, you will be, the benefit corporation is taxed like a C corporation. It's subject to federal income tax at the corporate level. Its shareholders are subject to income tax when profits are distributed to them. Whereas a nonprofit corporation, because it has that charitable purpose and is really stepping in to fill the voids that the government cannot or will not, then it is eligible to apply for a 501c3 federal tax exempt status, and any contributions made to the nonprofit corporation may also qualify as tax deductible to the person making that contribution. Whereas benefit corporations, they don't get that federal tax exemption, and contributions to them are not tax deductible.
Excellent. I wanted to make sure to to illuminate that point for folks for the listeners who might be thinking of being creative in how they register their business and what they might be able to expect moving forward.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me adding to that point, that what I've seen a lot in the work that we do in our clinic is often not an either or, so for-profit or benefit corporation versus a nonprofit, but there's ways to actually to have both structure a business, a social enterprise, if you will, in a way that there's both a for-profit arm and a nonprofit arm. And it depends really what your business is doing. But there is a possibility of using those two corporate forms in tandem. Now, I have to say that I think that those are for businesses, small businesses that are really ready to have two different entities that they're willing to manage and run at the same time.
And if I could follow up, because we get that question a lot, and a lot of typically folks are looking to have some sort of for-profit and nonprofit sort of. Most folks are coming to us and saying, "Hey, we want to have a nonprofit and for-profit arm." Is usually what they call this format, and I would just love to hear a little bit more about sort of in what stage of sort of preparedness are these businesses when they come to folks at your clinic, because I will just say anecdotally that when entrepreneurs and potential business owners come to, whether they come to one of our monthly clinics or they come to a training and they've got these questions, in some cases, it sounds like a good idea, but in most cases, it sounds sort of like a harebrained scheme. And I want to make sure that folks understand that this is not a format to be taken lightly.
Right, and I think that's exactly right. Most of the organizations that come to us that are looking to have two entities running at the same time are nonprofit organizations that have already been running for a long time. They're already established. They've got things under their belt. And what they'll do is the nonprofit organization will say, well, we're looking for an additional funding stream, and so therefore we would like to start a for-profit arm and to engage in kind of in the commercial activities that we're going to be starting. And then that's when we say, well, you know what, a benefit corporation might be a good fit, because then you can align that for-profit arm with your mission, with your social or your environmental mission.
Excellent. That's great. So I wanted to ask, I got a couple more questions for you. One thing I want to know, and again, we get a lot of folks who are interested in starting a benefit corporation, but they're operating the business on their own. I wanted to get a sense for whether, it can be done operating a benefit corporation by yourself, and whether it's good practice to do so.
Yeah. So in order to have a benefit corporation in DC, there are, as I said before, there are additional obligations, and that can be taxing, right? If you're just running a company, a small business by your own, then those additional obligations can start to, become administrative burdens. And you may want to think about who's going to, be doing that annual report that you need to do every year, or who's going to be ensuring that your small business is meeting its social or environmental goals. And I think that often comes with small businesses that are, more than a sole or a single person that's running them, and that have the capacity to kind of build in the infrastructure to manage the social and environmental impacts and measurements.
Right. Good. I wanted to make sure to key in on that, because I do believe when folks are thinking about going down this route, the accountability piece of this cannot be overstated.
Yeah, and I think that it can't be overstated, because you don't want to be accused of greenwashing. or of not meeting your social or environmental impacts, and just claiming the benefit corporation form just for marketing purposes, essentially. And so there are possibilities where if you're a small business owner and you really believe in the benefit corporation, but you don't have the capacity at the moment to do the additional accounting and transparency and obligations, then you could start off in a different form, right? Start off as an LLC, start off as a C corporation, and then convert down the line when you feel like you do have the capacity to make that conversion.
Okay. One of the things I will say, actually, I'll say two things. First, I hadn't heard the term greenwashing before, which I think is a really interesting term. But I have certainly made the case to folks who are thinking about starting a benefit corporation that you don't want to take it lightly. B, you want to make sure that you're following all the oversight that you should be making sure to take advantage of. And then additionally, one of the things that I mentioned to business owners is you can still have a sort of charitable intent to be a part of your business without going through and utilizing the form of a benefit corporation. Whether that means, and I know a lot of establishments will designate a certain percentage of their funds to charities. If there's, I try to make sure that folks understand that.
Right.
If you have this intent or you have this drive to help your, whether it's your surrounding community or a particular community that's affected by something in particular, you can do that without having to change the fundamental formatting of your business.
Right. And that's correct. And I would say certainly if you're the 100% owner of your small business, then quite frankly, you can do whatever you want with your business. And you can, donate that 20% or 10% to charity or, state your social or environmental mission. You do not have to be a benefit corporation. I would just say that if you do have outside investors or other investors, you just want to make sure that they are on the same page as you in terms of that environmental or social mission, because that is, committing the organization or committing the corporation to do those social or environmental impacts.
Exactly. So I've got one last question for you. Are there any special certifications that a B Corp would need or might be interested in getting?
Just to back up for 1 second, I want to make sure because there's so much confusion out there about the difference too between a benefit corporation and a B corporation. And so I just want to make clear that the benefit corporation is, changing your, is incorporating as a benefit corporation. And that is your fundamental organizational form versus a B Corp. A lot of people use that term B Corp, and it is a certification that is, given by B Labs, kind of like the good housekeeping certification or a fair trade label. And so that is another route that small businesses could go down in terms of and get that certification. Say, I'm a corporation, but I'm certified as a B corporation by B Lab. And other certifications, I mean, there's certainly a bunch out there. You can, if you're a minority business owner, you can be certified, in order to get special contracts with the Small Business Administration federally. And so there's definitely other designations out there that small business owners should be thinking about, and not just the benefit corporation or B Corp certification.
Well, thank you for that. And I just wanted to say thanks again to Alicia for all of your fantastic insights. And I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us and speak with the listening community out there. So, again, thank you very much for all your help. Really appreciate it. And for more information or to access all of our other podcasts, webinars, and other helpful information, please visit us at www.lawhelp.org/DC/CED. You can also find us on Twitter. I'll start with Alicia's Twitter. APLERHOPLES. There's also my Twitter handle at Darryl J. Maxwell, DARRYL J. Maxwell, or the DC Bar Pro Bono Center at DC Bar Pro Bono. Thanks you all for listening. Have a great day.